competing for gas in the eastern Mediterranean. Turkey and Greece are at loggerheads in a volatile area. Both countries claim rights to energy resources there. Could this dispute escalate? And what would it take to defuse it? This is Inside Story. Hello, welcome to the programme. I'm Adrian Finighan. Concerns are growing that there could be a conflict between Turkey and Greece in the eastern Mediterranean. For weeks now, the two countries have been disputing maritime boundaries and offshore energy rights. On Tuesday, they sent warships to the waters in a show of force. Turkey's vessel, the Oruc Reis, is conducting research, and Greece says that it's above its continental shelf. Ankara disputes Athens' exclusive rights in the region. They've both announced military exercises within a broad area between Crete and Cyprus, but they've also signalled readiness for dialogue as Germany tries to mediate between the NATO allies. Al Jazeera's Sinem Kosiolu reports now from Istanbul.
Turkish and Greek warships on alert. Tensions are high as the two countries have been locked in a dispute for weeks over maritime boundaries and offshore rights. Germany, for its part, is trying to mediate the dispute between the neighbours and NATO allies. Its foreign minister, Heiko Maas, conducting shuttle diplomacy between Athens and Ankara. Earlier on Tuesday, Maas warned of a possible catastrophe in the region.
What we urgently need are visible steps towards de-escalation and a genuine readiness for dialogue. I have been hearing from all sides that there is a willingness for dialogue, and so we believe holding talks is achievable. In the end, a binding and peaceful solution to the Eastern Mediterranean dispute will only be possible if there are direct talks between Greece and Turkey.
Turkey calls Greece a spoiled child who has unconditional support from the EU. That's why an honest EU mediation is necessary for dialogue.
If you make statements such as we will defend our rights, we carry out drills, we do not say we will make a mistake, but we will do whatever is necessary without hesitation. Therefore, do not get egged on by those countries. Act with common sense.
Tension between the two neighbours peaked when the Turkish research vessel, the Oruc Reis, began carrying out seismic research in the eastern Mediterranean. The ship is being escorted by warships between Crete and Cyprus. Greece says it's hoping for a diplomatic solution, but stands ready militarily.
Greece will defend, in the name of law, its sovereignty and sovereign rights. Greece will defend its national and European borders, the sovereignty and sovereign rights of Europe. It does not have any other choice but to do so.
Turkey's foreign minister said Athens' provocative steps only disrupts dialogue between the two countries. Germany revived de-escalation talks between senior Turkish and Greek officials, an initiative started in July but broken off by Turkey several weeks later after Greece announced a maritime deal with Egypt earlier this month. Turkey says it is open to dialogue with Greece only if there is a fair distribution of rights in the eastern Mediterranean. But if Athens continues presenting preconditions for dialogue and doesn't give up its uncompromising approach in the region, Ankara says a real conflict may become unavoidable. Sinem Kosiolu, Al Jazeera, Istanbul.
Well, Turkey sent out an alert last month saying that it was sending its vessel to carry out a survey. The mission, though, was suspended following German mediation, but talks were called off and the Oruc Reis left port on August 10th. Greece signed a partial maritime demarcation agreement with Egypt earlier this month. A similar deal was signed by Ankara and Libya's Government of National Accord, the GNA, last year. Turkey is drilling in waters where Cyprus claims exclusive economic rights, and it's also at odds with Greece over areas that it claims in the island's north. They're also in dispute over migrants crossing from Turkey into Greece. Well, let's bring in our guests who can discuss all of this with us. Joining us from Athens, George Tzogopoulos, strategic affairs analyst and lecturer at the Democritus University of Thrace. From London, we're joined by Wolf Piccoli, managing director of the political risk arm of the global advisory service Teneo. Wolf covers Turkey and Greece extensively. And from Istanbul, Yusuf Alabada, retired Turkish colonel and security analyst at the Turkish Defence University. Welcome to you all, gentlemen. Wolf, I want to start with you. Turkey's president has warned Greece not to test his country's patience or courage. Turkey will take what is its right in the Mediterranean, in the Aegean and in the Black Sea, he said. Just as we have no eyes over anyone's territory, sovereignty and interests, we will never compromise on what belongs to us. We're determined to do whatever's necessary in political, economic and military terms. How dangerous is the current situation, Wolf? Is there a risk that it could escalate into a military conflict?
Well, in terms of the statement by President Erdogan, we have heard similar lines before, nothing particularly new there. Whenever we listen to Erdogan making this statement, we need to take into account there is a huge domestic dimension there in play. In terms of the situation on the ground, it is clear that there isn't a diplomatic de-escalation. The attempt by the German foreign minister yesterday visited Athens and Ankara to mediate failed. It was set to fail. And now both sides, both the Greek side and the Turkish sides, are carrying out competing naval exercises. Obviously, when you start putting lots of military hardware in a small piece of sea, the risk of an accident is high. We have already seen it a few days ago. But the risk of an outright military confrontation, in my view, remains fairly low.
Yusuf, to what extent is Turkey's posturing about playing to a domestic audience? Is it behaving like a schoolyard bully?
No, I don't think so. I do not think so, because the Turkish side is very dedicated to keep its rights inside the Mediterranean Sea, according to the United Nations Convention of Law Sea. But let's remember that this issue, this game, is not a zero-sum game, and it shouldn't be also a zero-sum game. So both sides should come to a conclusion. For this reason, the German Chancellor Merkel a couple of weeks ago requested from Erdogan to take the ships from the Turkish continental shelf. So they didn't send the ships, but all of a sudden, when Turkey realized that Egypt and Greece has signed an agreement which is violating the Turkish continental shelf, then that was the end of the diplomatic game. Just after that, the Turkish seismic research ship and the Turkish Navy started to sail again to the Mediterranean. For this reason, it should be solved in a very unique resolution, because this is a very unique area. So you cannot resolve all those issues, which is very unique, without taking into consideration of the geography of this region.
George, Greece says that it's going to exercise what it says is its legal right to extend its territorial waters along the western coastline from 6 to 12 miles, abandoning what the Prime Minister says is decades of passive foreign policy. Just how far is Greece prepared to go in standing its ground?
Well, thank you for having me. Greece actually attempts to protect its sovereignty and sovereign rights. The extension of the territorial waters is placed in its interest to protect its sovereignty, while its action now in the Eastern Mediterranean is placed in its interest to protect its sovereign rights. What Greece is attempting to do is to show to the international community that that kind of problems can be better solved via diplomacy. But the question is, up to what extent diplomacy can solve the problems from the moment provocative actions are taking place in the region. It is certainly in the interest of Greece to cooperate with Turkey, but under current circumstances, this does not seem that easy.
Wolf, what are the implications of the deal signed between Turkey and Libya on demarcation rights in all of this, and the more recent one signed between Greece and Egypt?
Well, Adrian, one of the complexity of the whole dispute here, that when we define boundaries, what is legal, what is not legal, is utterly unknown. So there is a huge legal dimension which applies to this deal between Turkey and Libya. applies to the Greece-Egypt deal. So there is a huge amount of uncertainty. But what is clear is that without the political will here and without the mediation of a serious third party, we are not going to get the people around the table to try to start tackling these legal complexities. Right now, there is no will from either side to engage on this front, despite all the statement that everybody is willing to negotiate.
And Wolf, just very briefly, who should mediate between the two sides? Germany's had a go, but hasn't achieved much. Does this dispute really need a mediator, or should the two sides just get talking to each other?
Well, the problem is, Adrian, that we don't have two sides any longer. This was a regional crisis that now is becoming bigger by the day. Even countries from the Gulf are involved. France has taken side, and so on. So there are more and more players in a small region with lots of legal complication. Who should be negotiate? Well, the EU cannot be the negotiator. It's not an objective side because both Cyprus and Greece are EU members. Germany is trying, but the record of Germany as a mediator is not a particularly great one and is not perceived as to be an objective mediator by the Greeks. Traditionally, this role has been played by the US, the big player missing in this, and somewhat contributing indirectly to this spike in tension is the United States. If you remember 1996, when Greece and Turkey went head-to-head over a pointless island, it was the United States, with a round of phone calls, that brought back some common sense, which is now utterly missing.
Yusuf, how can Turkey have any claim to territorial waters in the southern parts of the Mediterranean, areas that are geographically nowhere near Turkey?
There are two parts to your question. One of the most important ones is the territorial water. From the perspective of the territorial waters, there is no dispute about that. But when you come to the economical exclusive zone and also the continental shelf, the United Nations Convention of Law of Sea does not draw a clear line which part belongs to which country. And that is the start of the problem from my point of perspective. For this reason, the diplomacy which will take place either inside Germany or either in Athena or in Ankara, does not matter, will be very fruitful in order to solve this problem, because we still has no idea that which part belongs to which country. Yes, Greece declares an exclusive economical zone, but Turkey does not accept. And Turkey declares a continental shelf, and also the Greece does not declare. And when you take a look at the maritime law does not draw certain lines like the land borders. Just give some criteria, such as the mainland, obstruction of a country, equity, blah, blah. So for this reason, if the diplomacy does not solve this problem, then the power will solve such kind of problems. And I do not think that that issue will come to that level. For this reason, the mediation of Germany, although my friend in the United Kingdom says that Germany's position is always weak as a mediator, may produce a result, because I do not think that this is a zero-sum game. So both sides may win from the position if they come to a table.
George, what do you make of that, of what you heard there? And what about this demarcation right deal signed between Greece and Egypt?
Well, there are two main ways on how the problem can be solved peacefully via diplomacy. The first is at the bilateral level, which is possible. This means that Greece and Turkey can be engaged in bilateral negotiations in order to settle the issue of the continental shelf. And the second option can be the idea of a multilateral dialogue. President Erdogan has already mentioned that. It seems to me an idea that needs further elaboration. Of course, Cyprus needs to take part on this, and this is the thorn on how this idea can be followed by practice. In my opinion, and I share some of the views of my colleagues, it can be a win-win game, because anyway, the East Med Gas Forum already exists, and there are 7 countries which take part in this forum, and I don't see why Turkey and Lebanon and perhaps other countries should not take part in the future from the moment they accept the rules of the majority. In my opinion, it's a matter of political will in order to solve the problem via diplomacy, because this is the key point. And as far as the agreement between Greece and Egypt is concerned, this is related to the interest of the country to exert an active foreign policy and solve the issue peacefully with its neighbors, as obviously Turkey did with Libya. The problem is how all the countries together can cooperate in order to guarantee prosperity for the societies in different countries.
Well, we're talking about, in particular, the Eastern Mediterranean here at the moment, in the last two answers from Yusuf and George, but I didn't get the answer I wanted from Yusuf about what Turkey is doing in territorial waters off Libya, and having done this deal with the government of national accord. What right does it have to claim any territory in the southern Mediterranean?
The deal was done for political reasons. Turkey felt that it was becoming more and more isolated in the region. Greece always had Cyprus on its side. They made an agreement with Israel. They were in negotiation with Egypt. So Erdogan, somewhat cornered, pulled the Libya deal out of the hat. Is a deal that stands legally? Nobody knows. Does it matter? No, at this point, because we are not there. So that is where we are. So that from the Turkish perspective, there is a sense that the country is being isolated. And now, more recently, you have seen France taking the side of Greece. You've seen the United Arab Emirates taking the side of Greece. So the more Erdogan feels squeezed, the more it's going to become aggressive. That is one of the risks here at the end of the day. And if I can add one single point that we have not mentioned yet. Yes, there is a dispute about boundaries, territorial waters, whatever we want to call it, but there is an underpinning dispute that is over Cyprus, a situation that has not been solved since 1974. So the two are here together, making a solution even more difficult to achieve.
And Wolf, I just want to ask you as well, to what extent Turkey may be stretching itself right now on too many fronts, with its involvement in Syria and now Libya?
Well, it's Syria, it's northern Iraq, it's Libya, and now potentially the East Med. If you put yourself in the shoes of President Erdogan, is facing rising unemployment. The economy is cracking. Just this morning, the lira was at the lowest level ever. Well, at some point, it was a 7.41 against the dollar. And what he has seen, that this military adventurism abroad has paid off so far in terms of popularity. It did in Syria, it did in Libya. Let's see whether it's going to pay off in terms of the East Med. So Erdogan here needs to distract the public opinion, needs to try to keep his popularity high, and he knows that so far this initiative, even if they costed Turkey dearly in terms of international standing, they pay off domestically.
Yusuf, what do you make of that? Military adventurism seems popular back home. Is Turkey stretching itself at the moment? What are its long-term strategic goals?
We cannot call it as an adventure. This is reality. When you take a look at the map of Middle East, there are 6 failed states, including Iraq, Syria, Yemen, Libya, and blah, blah. And 2 of them is the neighboring countries which Turkey shares. So from those 2 failed states, such as Iraq and Syria, we know that more than 4.5 million Syrians are living inside Turkey, and that creates lots of terrorist problems, such as in the case of the Daesh and PKK problem. And also the same issue is valid for the northern part of the Iraq. For this reason, no one should hope that Turkey sit back and wait what the terrorists and the organizer of the terrorist organizations are planning for the future of the Turkey. For this reason, Turkey is not playing an adventure. Turkey is conducting the operations and successfully completing it. Does it produce a result? Yes. Today, I can say that all the major cities inside Turkey are as secure as London. are as secure as Paris and Berlin. For this reason, to call it as adventure will not be a right terminology, because they do produce solution. They do produce a lot of also the end result that Turkey wants. For this reason, I cannot say that this is an adventure, especially in those failed states. Can you imagine that those failed states nearby the border of United Kingdom, France, or Germany, they will also do the same action, and we will not call it as an adventure.
Okay, Yusuf, just very briefly as well, to what extent does Cyprus factor into Turkey's behaviour, the unresolved issue, as Wolf called it?
A Cyprus issue is a very long issue that we should discuss for many hours in this program. When you take a look at the Cyprus position, according to the constitution of the Cyprus, the Turkish people who lives inside Cyprus are not minority, and we know how this constitution in 1960s has been constituted, and how in 1974, with a military coup, Nikos Samson, a Greek Cypriot, declared that the island from now on belongs to the Greece. For this reason, that's a huge discussion point. Okay. But what Turkey perceives, what's going on inside Cyprus, and Turkish agenda is very clear, to protect the right of the Turkish Cypriots in this island, as you say, whatever the case.
As you say, it's an issue that we just don't have time to get into here and now. Wolf, what are the implications of this for NATO? Both countries, members of the military alliance, cohesion and a united front are not going to be achievable if two member nations are squabbling.
And the squabbling within NATO has been going on for some time, and not just involving Turkey, but involving other countries. NATO here is one of the partners that is completely missing. There was an attempt by the Greek administration to involve the NATO Secretary General in these mediation attempts. It was nowhere to be seen. So NATO here is certainly under pressure. Now we have seen France taking a stance there. So it's one of those international organizations, just like the UN, that should be part of the solution, but right now are nowhere to be seen.
And what, Wolf, are we to make of France's military involvement and its support firmly for Greece? What are the implications for the EU?
Well, the EU, as I said before, was not an objective partner from the very start. France decided to take the side of Greece and Cyprus. I think there is an element of animosity between Macron and President Erdogan over what happened in Libya, for example, where the French were outplayed by the Turks. And in many ways, I think also France has irritated Germany by sending these military ships in the region, while the Germans are trying to mediate here. So even the EU is deeply divided. Athens is pushing very hard for EU sanctions, which are not coming, in my view. There is a EU meeting on the 27th, 28th of August, ahead of the Council meeting in September. One of the Greeks and the Cypriots are asking for sanction. The EU is not in the position to put a credible sanction on Turkey. So that is why, all in all, in my view, even if I agree with Yusuf and George that there is much to gain from a deal, I don't see a deal coming anytime soon.
OK. There, I'm afraid, gentlemen, we must leave it. You'll be wondering why I didn't put another question to George. There was a power cut in Athens. And the internet connection has dropped between us and George, so I'm afraid he had to leave us mid-programme. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for your time. Wolf, Piccoli, Yusuf Alabada, and of course, George Tzogopoulos. And thank you for watching. Don't forget you can see the programme again at any time just by going to the website. aljazeera.com is where you'll find it. And for further discussion, you can join us at our Facebook page. We're on facebook.com/AJ Inside Story, and you can join the conversation on Twitter. Our handle at AJ Inside Story. From me, Adrian Finighan, and the whole team here in Doha, thanks for being with us. I'll see you again. Bye for now.